Good morning, everybody. Really, really early. It's like 6 o'clock. Oh my God, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's been a while since I've been up this early. Actually, it's been a while since I've been up since 4:30, because I think there was a period of time where I was up at 4:30, and then my body had to get used to an upset of homeostasis in the environment. And then now, as I look back, hindsight 2020, this month has been preparing me for the coming Chinese New Year, which I didn't think about as far as the Chinese calendar. Okay, the year of the rat is the first animal of the Chinese calendar. It's when everything recycles. So we have 12 animals, and I think I'm third, so I'm year of the tiger. So right now, it's going to be a bumpy year for a lot of people out there. And so I just wanted to give you a heads up. I was supposed to get my period yesterday, and no period, not even a sign of it at this point that I know of or can see. So that's awesome. Majorly energetic. My hair looks great. My skin looks great. I'm not really triggered. I do definitely fight for my American way. I do fight for the Jilly Juice protocol. Um, I won't not take a side when it comes to life or death. I will fight for life. And so it's been quite interesting entertaining all the different narratives around the coronavirus, because I'm so tired of seeing people completely just slam Bill Gates and his campaign and utilizing the whole thing with the patents being created like a couple years ago. And it's like, when you make that assumption that because someone created a patent for a virus a couple years ago, you automatically assume that they created the virus so they can create a patent to create a vaccine to make money off you. Well, that's no different than blaming Jillian for creating a virus so she can sell a bunch of books and sell a bunch of ideas that you can live indefinitely and be all famous, right? I mean, come on, that's a little asinine. There's a lot more that goes on with the American government and the CDC when it comes to research and biotechnology. And then we also have national security. And we have so many players out there. We have the Chinese government. They have their own politics and their own issues over there. We have other countries that have their issues with us and we with them. I mean, there are so many players that, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to buy into completely demonizing the Americans and demonizing my government because it fits your narrative because you want to blame someone for something. Oh, it's such a trip. I mean, I'm watching these political groups like We Are Change and all of these left wing, anti-American types of groups and ideologies just can't wait for blood and to slam the pharmaceutical company and to completely just pass around the conspiracies. And so it's funny, we don't know the truth. We can only speculate. But like I said, I'd be damned if I'm going to allow one scenario be the only scenario out there. So what if the Chinese government was creating their own bioweapon to control their own population, like Hong Kong, like the Uyghurs over there, the Muslim population in China, and to also control Taiwan? You don't think that there are governments out there that are actually doing what you're thinking the American government's doing? Has that not even crossed your mind? That biological warfare is real and other countries can perpetrate it on their own people? When you have 1 billion people and you're a communist regime that does not allow freedom of speech and freedom of religion, you don't think the possibility of them trying to quell and control their population through biological warfare is a possibility? And that maybe they messed up and now it's Pandora's box, and it seems so timely. Now, it's rather timely, and I can't say whether it's planned or not because the year of the rat, and then 2020, right at the end of start of the year of the rat, which is the first beginning of the Chinese New Year, And then travel is so much going on during the beginning of the year over there in China. I mean, it's coincidental. I mean, I don't think it's coincidental, but there's no way I can prove it. But people mess up all the time. And sometimes it's coincidental that it happens to be at a very timely event like the Chinese New Year and the Year of the Rat, no less. So this is going to be an interesting time. So when I went on to I Love Fucking Science or whatever that site, and they're all making fun of all the different conspiracy theories, like people slamming Bill Gates and stuff, which I completely understand because I'm tired of people slamming Bill Gates. I mean, I'm just so tired of it. Come on. There's another scenario, there's another narrative you can buy into and see as a possibility. There isn't just one way of looking at stuff, okay? So I offered a different scenario, which has already been substantiated by a Harvard scientist that has ties to China, okay? And so NPR already substantiated that. So it's like NPR and I Love Fucking Science or I Fucking Love Science are kind of like their sister companies. They're both very left wing. So I can't imagine why these people on I Love Fucking Science completely just throw that article out the window. But what they didn't like was the fact that I introduced another idea that maybe China did create their own bioweapon to control their own population that basically escaped their facility, whether it was intentional or whether it was accidental, we have no idea. But it was rather timely. Woo, they just could not wait. And of course, my Trump 2020 also just incensed everybody. So, you know, no matter what, here's the thing. If I was a leader of a huge nation like America and we depend upon capitalism, we depend upon commerce, we depend upon people going to work every day, we don't want to alarm the population of really the actual danger that's out there. Okay? And I completely understand that because we don't have a vaccine yet. And I don't care what your thoughts about vaccines, but there's a reason why we have 7 billion people, because most of you shouldn't be here because of all your predispositions when you came into this world to begin with. The fact that you're here is because of modern medicine and a vaccine, or you were very lucky and you were strong enough to withstand the environment. But not everybody is strong enough. So some people need aid from modern medicine. Okay? So if we don't have a vaccine yet to quell the anxiety of a potential aggressive virus, they're going to downplay. And that's fine. People die from the flu all the time. I had an attack a couple weeks ago that I could have just, I mean, I didn't get it tested, but anyone could easily chalk up any kind of sickness that has flu-like symptoms. And then if you have predispositions like asthma or anything else, then yeah, it would stand to reason that whatever virus is going to trigger your predispositions. And if someone dies, then the coroner's report would say died from natural causes. And no one would think to test the virus to see which virus it was that triggered the chain of events. So it's easy to just say, okay, we're not going to make everyone freak out because no one knows what kind of flu bug they have. Now, will they go get it tested? They might, but I don't even know if there's any testing kits really. I mean, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But even if there is, you know, it's like, it's hard to say. I mean, how many people are going to go to the ER to say, please test me for this flu bug? I didn't even go to the ER when I got afflicted by some kind of virus because I have jelly juice and I have my immune system and I dealt with it for one day. But how many people, I mean, some people will go to the ER because they have kids. But how many actual flu attacks or how many actual sicknesses do get reported to the CDC as far as the ER? Okay, because not everybody goes to the doctor. Some people will just let it run its course because there's no antibiotics you can take. So you're going to stay home and not go to work because you don't want to give it to everybody. Or people go to work and take Mucinex and just try to stop the symptoms. And so they could very well have coronavirus, but nobody knows. And luckily they aren't around people that are that weak that will get it. But I don't mean, we haven't seen as far as here anyone in our world dropping to the floor bleeding from their eyes because of so many antibodies bursting the blood vessels, which is why it's such a scary thing and why they've quarantined China off in different places, because it's a pretty aggressive virus that will cause rapid antibody accumulation. People are downplaying it. Okay, that's fine. It's easier to downplay it. But remember, you don't know for sure. And why would you want somebody to prove how horrible it is. Because if we have to prove how horrible it is, you may not be lucky in the outcome for you. Okay? So anyways, it's such a trip. So it's the year of the rat. It's going to be a tumultuous year, you guys. You're going to see so much stuff go on. And I don't know. So just like with when you first start Jilly Juice, it's going to be healing symptoms. It's going to be just pain. You're going to revisit the past, present, and future triggers, PTSD. When you first start Jilly Juice, that period of renewal, the upset of homeostasis, it sucks. But then you start seeing glimmers of hope when you start seeing some of the things you have reverse, or you see skin tags fall off, or warts fall off, or other issues get reversed. But you have to be on it long enough. So you're the rat, and then what's after that? The 12 animals, the 12 China, I don't even know the whole. The 12 animals of the Chinese year.
Here's a summary from China Highlights. The 12 Chinese.
Oh, rat and then ox.
Rat, ox, tiger.
And then tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, pig.
2020 is a year of the rat.
So yeah, the year 2020, the year of the rat. And then you have the ox. So you can kind of tell what the year's gonna be like based upon the Chinese horoscope in a lot of ways. Because the Chinese have been around for thousands and thousands of years. They're not perfect. They are humans. They are going through predispositions, so they're not going to always do everything perfectly correctly. Okay, but they have figured out the cycles of the calendar and how world events, and they even probably even project. Okay, so it's hard to say whether or not they're controlling the projection and giving credibility to the Chinese New Year. Just like when you read your horoscope, it kind of sets your day, sets the tone of the day. So no matter what, just like when people read the Illuminati, cards, and I'm like, how do you know someone hasn't created that card like 5 minutes ago to then substantiate your theory that there's Illuminati cards? Okay, so, or even in the Bible too. So humans are very predictable. They work in a cyclical fashion, especially when you are reproducing and dying on a continuous basis. History repeats itself over and over and over again until we actually infuse a different chemistry into the environment. And so, yeah, you're going to see a period, a cycle of renewal, and it's going to be very interesting. So, so I put out there as far as not getting my period, because what I have proposed is that when you are 100% well, like 100% well, a girl would then trigger amenorrhea, and not because she is having issues or underweight. It's because her body senses that she is not going to die anytime soon based upon her physiological makeup, the full alignment of her body, mind, and spirit. So it doesn't need to drop seeds. And when somebody doesn't trigger menses, it could mean that you have an underlying condition, or you have menopause, or you're so young and you have a very healthy body, and so you haven't triggered menses yet, because sometimes it happens for girls way back a couple 20 years ago, where some girls didn't get their period till they're 19. But nowadays, people are getting their periods, girls are getting their periods at like 11, at age 9. And it's because the body recognizes that there are major predispositions, and it knows that it's on a death trajectory, and it wants to mitigate extinction. So it's interesting that now, January, the year of the rat, I'm questioning whether or not I'm going to get my period. Now, will I speak too soon? I don't know, but I definitely feel very different. Okay? And so while I'm in my own period of renewal with the Jilly Juice and really being on the other side of all of the controversy, and I have substantiated my point of view and my opinion backed up with science, I'm doing amazing. I'm watching the rest of you all struggle with your healing process. Okay? And I'm telling you, you can't afford to be glib. You can't afford to not take what's going on seriously. You know, we have a government that is very interested in making sure that we have good national security. We don't have mass chaos, mass hysteria. So yes, things are going to get downplayed, but you're still seeing stuff happen in the news. They're still focusing on evacuating people in Wuhan to come to the US or other places. Or we've heard that the pandemic was known in December, but it wasn't mainstreamed until now. So how many people have come from the Wuhan province over the holidays? Come to America, be a carrier. You know, what is it, 7 to 14 day type of incubation period? And you're still communicable at that time? Okay, so I was under attack a couple weeks ago, but my immune system fought it off. A lesser of a person would not have been able to fight off what I was exposed to, whatever it was. Because I think I went to the Outback Steakhouse and then hung out with some friends. And so there were a lot of people at Outback Steakhouse. Okay, and how many of them are carriers? How many of them came from China? You don't know who you're mixing with when you go to the public forum or you go to any public area. So you got to know that no matter what, you're always going to be exposed to all the different viruses out there. And the Chinese are no different than us. They get used to an environment, they adapt, and then when an aggressive virus comes into their environment, you start seeing them react. Just like when I introduced Jilly Juice to an environment that's not used to having somebody think about indefinite life or reversing the aging process or living to 300 years. Boy, did I upset the homeostasis. Boy, did I just throw a monkey wrench in so many people's belief systems. Well, that's no different than what happens in China as well as here. People adapt to a specific way of life here, and then you bring in an aggressive virus, whatever it is, whether it's flu, because they're saying the flu season was a pretty bad season, but they say that every season because, yeah, people are getting weaker, which makes the viruses stronger, and then now you introduce another virus into the environment that's mutating. But they say it hasn't mutated yet. But, you know, who the hell knows what really is truly going on in the interest of national security? So when you think that people are lying because of malintention, sometimes it's for your own safety. You know, when your parents tell you that everything's okay, but they're facing eviction and they're facing this and they're facing that, and you're like 2 years old or 5 years old, and they don't want to really tell you what's going on, but they will tell you that everything's going to be okay. There's going to be changes. And they soften the blow for you. That's what our government does. Because, yeah, when you're a kid, you don't want to know all of the adult problems. That's way above your pay grade. You don't want to deal with that when you're a child. When you're a citizen of a country, you hire your elected officials to deal with the crap out there. And if you deal with it wrong, then you're up for re-election. They're not going to tell you everything. And then people assume conspiracy, which, yeah, it does happen. But you can't assume because they don't tell you the truth means they have some kind of malintention. Again, that's why, you know, Julian Assange is probably the worst thing ever because he totally compromised national security in the name of journalism. Believe me, I've had my run-ins with horrible journalists, with, oh God, just the biggest slanderers in the world that create narratives that don't even exist. And I'm telling you, journalism is not a very morally ethical profession to be in. But then you're like, oh, well, somebody has to expose the government, you know, corruption. We have due process. Believe me, I wish there were very fair and balanced and neutral journalists out there. But when you have people with major political agendas, you have no idea what the truth is. And so it must come down to a court of law because that's the only thing that you have aside from people's opinions. I mean, that's the thing is when you're accused in the media of so many different things, but there is nothing to substantiate it, no conviction, no jail, no fines, no anything. And yet people still believe all that crap on the internet. It's like, okay, where does due process and the justice system come into play? Oh, wait, that's right. You have a communist thought process. You'd rather accuse somebody and hang them before, you know, you'd rather shoot them and ask questions later. That's a very communist thought process. And that's what I dealt with too. Okay, as far as rolling out Jilly Juice and all that. And so it's funny when I go on to a very left wing type of public forum that is like making fun of the conspiracies and people that are against Bill Gates, which I don't agree with. People should not be making fun of Bill Gates or think that he's part of the Depop agenda. However, I did introduce a different thought process that maybe China is the one that created the bioweapon, and it came out of their, and it escaped their factory through who knows why and how. And man, did people just come unglued. Well, you know, there's definitely a Chinatown in San Francisco. And there's definitely a lot of people who adopt the communist thought process that doesn't even want to think the fact that communist China would do that to the minorities over there. But I mean, you can't ignore that they have re-education camps. You can't ignore Hong Kong being controlled and being suppressed. Okay, so I mean, it is what it is, but this is going to be a very interesting year. Very interesting year indeed. And so just buckle up, bitches. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And they say that the vaccine may not happen for either, you know, they won't have it for a couple months as far as it being developed, because it has to go through its, you know, different protocols and testing and all of that. And they say that probably for you know, it would be like a year before actual mass consumption of it, I guess. So that all fits into this whole thing. It's going to be a bumpy ride this year. You're going to see a lot of things going on. And just stay as healthy as you can. Do the Jilly Juice, because I'm telling you, that's really your only recourse is Jilly Juice. Yeah, you can hole up in your house for however long for a year, but is that really realistic? Is to play the avoidance game? Or you have a year to figure it out, because you don't want the angel of death, so to speak, to pass over you and think that, oh, wait, I got a live one here. Because this is very biblical too. You know, in Passover, the angel of death, because the Egyptians didn't want to release the Hebrews from slavery. So, you know, God or life bestowed 10 plagues on the land of Egypt. And one of them was the firstborn. And then he told Moses to tell the Jews, put lamb's blood on the top of your doorstep, so when the angel of death passes over, he knows not to take away your firstborn. And so the Egyptians weren't privy to this information, so all of their firstborn the next morning were taken away by God as a punishment. Well, that's no different than when you guys don't get your body right, and they're not going to have a vaccine for a year. And how long can you depend upon herbs and pills and powders and supplements and detoxes? So people are going to be taking overabundance of herbs and extracts and detoxes, completely destroying their bodies, causing more imbalances in their fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. And then they start triggering their predispositions. And then when they get exposed to whatever virus is in the environment, it's going to do a number on them. And if you have major predispositions, holy shit, especially if you have heart issues. So don't take Jilly Juice lightly. You know, the vaccine is going to quell the anxiety, and it hasn't even been developed yet. So now everyone's going to be taking all of these essential oils, applying it to their children, causing more distress and more issues. The Jilly Juice, we have cornered the market, but people are going to laugh at us because of so much fear. And I would say fear, people are scared, and they should be scared. Okay, people should be scared. This is no joke. I have not seen a campaign such as this as far as the reporting, you know, as far as the coronavirus. I've heard about the Zika virus, about the West Nile, but it was nothing nearly as intense as this campaign with the coronavirus. And people are like, oh, the reason why is because they're trying to sell you a vaccine. It's not going to be developed for a year. I mean, they'll develop it in like 3 months, but it's not going to be ready for circulation for about a year. It has to go through its trials. And right now, there's so many biotechnical companies that are trying to race for getting it at least developed and approved, but it has to go through its clinical trials. So what are people left to do except read the news and be like, holy shit, and then laugh at other people for saying, hey, we have chili juice here. Yeah, the OAG investigated me because to make sure that it was probiotic, not antibiotic, but that was it. Nothing else. Hey, Tiffany, aloha back. I'm so jealous that you're in Hawaii. But so yeah, I mean, so we're going to be the only ones left standing with sanity. Those are you on the chili juice. If you're not on the chili juice, then hey, you're going to be turning to everything that's not going to work for you. Oh, it might work for you a little bit if you have enough resources in your body to handle the imbalances of whatever you're bringing into your body. But let me tell you, the diatomaceous earth has already been done. The silver, or Florida, okay. The silver has already been done. And I'm telling you, the cannabis has already been done. All of these different things have been done already. And look at the people who are doing it. They are aging and degrading. The changing of the diet, the organic, you know, whatever has already been done. And these people are dying, aging rapidly. And so when you have this thing now, like the coronavirus in the background, people are going to double and triple their dosages because of the amount of fear. And it's going to cause more imbalances in a child that already has major predispositions, as well as the parent. Because fear does that. People start taking more than the dosages. Because they get a sniffle, they get this, they don't know what it is. Then they go to the hospital, they get tested, they get exposed to everyone else that has something. It becomes a cyclical, self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, I laugh, but it's a trip. Because imagine if I went to the hospital when I was spewing out all that mucus that one day, when I was coughing, because I was exposed to some aggressive virus. I don't know what it was, but I was exposed to a virus in my environment a couple weeks ago. And then I'm hearing that the coronavirus pandemic was known in December. And we've had travel from all over the world during the holidays since December. So if I would have went to the hospital, which I would never do anyways, but if I did, I could have infected everybody. And how many people do test for what virus they have? Unless it's now known. And so now people are knowing about it. Will they go to the hospital and test for it? Because it's like AIDS, you know, once you get tested and you're tested positive for it, then they put you in quarantine, and then, oh my God, it's a whole scary thing. I mean, I was watching the Netflix movie Pandemic, where this guy said he had flu-like symptoms and he came from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he said, oh, I came from the DRC in Congo, and I feel kind of sick. And the person behind the window was just like, and she called somebody, like, okay, this guy came from the DRC, and she's telling this guy, okay, just hold on a second, we're gonna get things ready, hold on. And she makes a phone call, and then all these people come from the back wearing like face masks and chem warfare suits, like in a hospital, and they're like, okay, we're gonna put you in quarantine, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and they treat you like as if you are a leper, and nobody wants to go through that. So when that's what your choice is, that's what you're going to deal with, you're not going to go to the doctors because you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to be sitting in quarantine. I mean, you look what people have to deal with when they come here, when they come to the Ontario airport from Wuhan. They're already being looked at as lepers. They're already being like, you know, told to go back. We don't want you here. So, you know, this is going to be very interesting to see. Given the political climate, given the fear, because everyone's so imbalanced and so sick and they don't even know it, and they're going to apply the wrong remedies to their body, making things worse. So, you know, it's going to be very, very interesting. And no, you can't kill the coronavirus. You can't kill any virus. The only way you're able to beat any virus from recycling you back into the universe or systematically destroy you is if you strengthen your body correctly with the right chemistry, because there is nothing that will kill a virus. Chemotherapy stops replication. Thieves oil may stop replication. All the herbs and extracts and detoxes can stop replication, but then you stop the healing process. Remember, thieves oil and chemotherapy and cannabis doesn't discriminate. When you want to anesthetize pain, it doesn't just anesthetize the pain that you're targeting, it's everything in your body. And then the body adapts to it, and then the pain returns. Because the body doesn't want to deal with something like this poison, and it wants to live, and so then you're in pain again and you have symptoms again. Or you've deadened that part of your body because you've applied so many antibiotics to it that you've now systematically are deadening your body until it reaches your vital organs. So that's why the Jilly Juice is really the only way, because it wakes up that which has been put to sleep for many years based upon how you respond to your symptoms by applying the wrong chemistry to your body. And so when you systematically put to sleep your body, you then start seeing misfires and anomalies. And then you start seeing paranoia, and then you trigger all the different diagnoses out there. Okay? So the Jilly Juice now has cornered the market, but you have to be strong enough to handle the pain. You got to be committed enough to stay with it. You know, some of you are still stuck in the conspiracy world wanting to play that game, and you're not putting really too much effort into healing your body. And when you do meet any virus, whether it's a coronavirus or a flu virus in your environment, do you have what it takes to handle it? And some of you do, and some of you don't. Some of you are like the 11th hour, and you don't really know if you're going to live or die if you get exposed to an aggressive virus. And why would you want to roll the dice? You can't live in a bubble. What do? Put a whole hazmat suit on whenever you go outside? Especially in places like LA, Southern California. I mean, right here, even in Ohio, I mean, I live in a relatively economically depressed town. There's not too much travel in my areas going to there is probably, but I don't mix with too many people. But I did spend 12 hours in a hospital in my town waiting for someone's diagnosis. So I was exposed to viruses. But I mean, even then, even in a small rural town or a small town in the Midwest, still doesn't make you immune to the world out there. Because there have been people that were diagnosed with having the coronavirus that has never been exposed to Wuhan, and they got it from somebody who got it from somebody who got it from somebody who got it from somebody. So, you know, they're not telling us too much because they don't want to trigger mass hysteria, and rightfully so. Until we have a vaccine out there that will quell the anxiety, you're just going to hear rumors and stories. And you're going to have to put two and two together, make the connections, because remember, national security doesn't want to be compromised. America does not want to compromise their national security, so that way you know what's going on. Because if you know what's going on in the government, then so does the enemies, okay? So it's better you don't know what's going on. You just trust your government to such an extent, and then you get your body well. You get your body well to handle the tumultuous year this is going to be, because you already see it: volcanoes, earthquakes, fires, people flipping out. Now this virus. Buckle up, bitches. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Do the Jilly Juice. You might as well do the Jilly Juice while we're going through this tumultuous stuff, because it's going to be difficult in the beginning. Okay? Waterfalls to feeling pain, to feeling everything that you've ever been exposed to or ever dealt with as far as predispositions. You can't afford not to. The environment is becoming more and more and more aggressive. And if you don't have the ability to adapt or have the resources to adapt, it's going to go either way for many of you. Okay? And this is reality. I mean, it's been so weird that back in the 20th of January, before all this came out, I've been focusing on China and communism and the political parties, and I chose a side. I chose Trump, and I substantiated it. I didn't just choose Trump because it was trendy. I choose life because I could substantiate why people should live, why we don't need to be like hanging out as a spirit, like on Ghost Adventures. Okay? That body, mind, and spirit have to be aligned indefinitely on this earth physically for us to exude balance, that living indefinitely is definitely a possibility if you apply the right chemistry. So if you are on the fence, neutral about everything, it's because you haven't substantiated your opinion enough to hold it. So it's easier to not have an opinion. It's easier to be neutral on politics. It's easier to be neutral on anything because you haven't figured out why it is you're here. So if you don't stand for something, whatever it is, I don't care, stand for something, but back it up. Okay? So I've worked very hard on my opinions and my belief systems, and I can back it up. And here's the question. With your belief systems and your opinions, can you really substantiate it without listening to hearsay? Can you actually substantiate your opinion and your belief system with science, along with indefinite life potentially? Because it's easy to believe that people should die. Then you can do whatever the hell you want and be a total alcoholic, and you're totally justified. Yeah, people should die, so I'm going to go drug myself out and drink myself into oblivion because I believe people should die. And then you have no responsibility. Well, that's not the Jilly Juice way. Okay? So it takes work to have an opinion, really, and be able to substantiate it through science. It takes drive and commitment to really back up your lifestyle. So good luck, everybody. This is going to be interesting. Thanks for listening. Bye.